The U.S. capacity building programs in Georgia have, we've heard, and I completely agree, this was not a fair fight. It was never going to be a fair fight. But the U.S. capacity building programs in Georgia and the U.S. military effort in Georgia has been designed to build deployable capacity for the Georgians to participate in coalition operations, to develop counterinsurgency and to some extent counterterrorism skills. It was never designed, it was by design, not designed, to prepare them to fight a full spectrum maneuver war against a country like Russia. So in fact, the U.S. Intentionally made the decision not to train or equip their artillery, their armor, or their attack aviation forces for two reasons. One, those were not needed in Iraq or Afghanistan, and second, it was seen to be too provocative. They have a very young military leadership. After the Rose Revolution, 2003, 2004, not only in the Ministry of Defense, throughout the Georgian government, essentially everybody over 40 was gone. The advantage of that was the old Soviet mindset was gone. The disadvantage, obviously, is the experience was gone. And so you've got a Minister of Defense who turns 30 this fall, I think in September. The Chief of the Joint Staff is 37-ish, and he came over from the Ministry of Internal Affairs. So his background is as a Ministry of Internal Affairs Special Forces Commander. Then he came into the MOD Special Forces, and then he was made the Chief of the Joint Staff. The deputies are three, all of them competent, good guys, but young. Mid-30s, early to mid-30s, most of them. Brigade commanders are often majors and lieutenant colonels that are late 20s, early 30s. So you have a very young and inexperienced leadership. And the final thing I'll say is that there really is no approved Georgian Armed Forces doctrine. It's in development. It's under development. Right now, it's kind of an amalgamation of holdover Soviet doctrine. Particularly, I think if you look, you'll find their attack aviation, their armor, and artillery, since the U.S. hasn't really touched those units in any meaningful way, probably operate more on a Soviet model than not, whereas their infantry units, their reconnaissance units, increasingly their special forces, have adopted Western or U.S. doctrine. In some cases, adopting the doctrine just means taking a U.S. field manual, translating it into Georgian, and following it. But there's no overarching Georgian Armed Forces doctrine that would allow them to operate in any sort of way that would have allowed them to resist what came at them from Russia.